Good evening, everyone. It's been 3.5 hours since I finished my last coil stretch and fold, and I would like to show you how I'm going to shape my loaf now. Since I've sent you the other video that already has a bowl, I'm going to show you how to use a banneton. So a banneton is actually the normal bowl to shape your bread into, and the benefit of using this over a bowl is that the dough can breathe a little bit more, so you might be able to see more bubbles and blisters over your dough, although a lot of times I just bake in a normal bowl, so that's not necessary at all. Using a bowl and a tea towel is perfect. I have some rice flour here. You can also use a mixture of rice flour and normal flour, but this is quite important to prevent the dough from sticking, because it's really not nice if you've worked on a dough for very, very long and then when you're coming to bake it sticks, which has happened to me and to many bakers. So I'm going to use normal flour on my counter to shape the dough. So I've only used a little bit of rice flour in order to put it in the banneton and prevent it from sticking, because rice flour has no gluten in it. Okay, so I'm going to start with dusting my bench with some flour. And how much flour you add is really up to you. Once you get better at shaping and more confident, you'll be using less flour. If you feel your dough is very wet or very sticky and you're scared or you're not sure, just add more flour. And I'll show you the trick right now, because you still want your dough to stick to itself, but you still don't want it to stick to your surface or to your hands. So let's have a look at the dough here. So it looks very, very well rested, very relaxed, but still holding its shape a little bit. It wasn't too warm here. I'm going to right now flour my hands a little bit and try to very gently tuck my hand underneath the edges, not all the way through. And that is just to release it from the bowl, because first of all, I don't want to burst any bubbles here, of course, but I also don't want the dough to be pulled too much when I'm trying to put it over the counter, so that stretch won't be taking out any bubbles as well. So I'm just kind of tucking my hand in, lifting it up, tucking and lifting, tucking and lifting. And while I'm doing this, I can feel some bubbles bursting there, and that's fine. Now I'm just gonna turn this over, jiggle it a little bit, and just let the dough fall out. Okay, so everything underneath here right now is with flour, but everything up here is still sticky. I'm going to tuck my hands underneath with the flour and just kind of make sure it's not sticking, but there's enough flour there. I'm going to very gentle kind of open it up. So there are different ways to work on your dough. The last shaping method that I showed you was to fold one side 1/3 in the middle and the other third in the middle, and then kind of roll it and tuck it and shape it into a round one. Now I'd like to show you another method, which is a method I use a lot of times with higher hydration dough, so doughs that have more water and are more fluidy. But this is also a very good method, and what I think is good about this method, because the reason why we're shaping right now is to create tension on the outside of the bread, and that tension will kind of help the loaf stick together and grow up with more bubbles, more gas bubbles, and keep its beautiful shape. And later tomorrow, when we're going to slash it from the outside, it's going to give the perfect exit point for that bread to rise and to open up through our slashing point. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. So now I'm going to show you another shaping method. There are many different shaping methods, really. It's endless. And there are many different shapes as well. We're using a round one today, and that's the shape that we're going to make. So what I'm going to do is, after I've opened it up a little bit, I'm going to take the bottom part, pull it slightly, and fold it inwards. If I have any excess flour, this is time to get rid of it. You can also use a bench scraper, by the way. I'm not going to use this a lot today because I'm not sure most of you have it, but this is a very useful thing to have. It's basically just a kind of plastic. Okay, so after I did this, I'm going to tuck my hands underneath here, and I'm going to pull these sides, and I'm going to fold them over. Any excess flour out of here because I still want it to kind of stick to each other. So now what I'm going to do is pull this part on top like an envelope and close it as well. I've already created a little bit of tension. Now what I'm going to do is to create really the outer tension. So I'm just going to pull this and stick it over here. And while I'm doing this, I'm really trying not to burst any of my bubbles here. And maybe this method looks a little bit more complicated. That's very possible. I'm going to leave it up to you to see what you feel more comfortable with. Now I'm taking the last part and I'm just going to tuck it and roll it very similarly to the other way that I've did it. And I'm just going to use my hands to pull it towards me. I'm going to get rid of any excess flour here, because if I have flour, that means that my dough does not stick at all to my surface, and I need that in order to get some resistance. Now you can see here it's kind of open. I'm gonna close this and close it here as well. Okay, so now I'm almost done. I just want to give it a really nice round shape and create some more tension. Putting away every piece of flour I have. What I'm just doing is I'm just tucking my hands underneath and pulling it towards me, just by a little. I'm going to do this shape. I'm going to do this motion until I feel that it's tight. It looks good. If you do have a scraper, you can scrape it underneath and go around like this. You really don't have to have one. Scraper is very good when you're working with higher hydration doughs because those are very, very sticky and it's hard to do it only with your hands. Okay, this looks really good. Maybe you can already see all these bubbles here. That's really nice. So all that I need to do right now is maybe just give this a minute to kind of rest and then put it inside my banneton. Then I'm going to cover it with a plastic bag or my shower cap, and I'm gonna let it rest for up to an hour. You can also put it immediately in your fridge if you like. It's going now to ferment overnight. I just like to let it sit outside a little bit before I put it in the fridge, just so it can get some volume and grow a little bit, but it's not a big deal and it's not necessary. If you don't have time for it now, you can do it next time you'll make bread. So now I'm going to transfer it in here. If you have a scraper, you can just pull it underneath here, turn it, and I want to put it upside down in here, but most of us don't have a scraper, so I'm just going to do it by hand. So what I'm just going to do is kind of put my hand like this underneath, very gently pick it up. And then I'm going to place it inside my bowl. And that's it, we're done. If I have something that's opening up here a little bit, I'm just gonna pinch it together. Very slightly. Now I'm just going to make sure that the sides won't stick as well. So I'm just adding a little bit more flour around here. That's rice flour. And that's it. I'm basically done. What we've done right now is shape it and put it straight in the banneton. You'll hear of some recipes that will tell you to first of all shape it, let it rest for 20 minutes, and then shape it again. That's called a pre-shape. With higher hydration dough, that's a good idea to do. But with this one, I don't think it's necessary for now. So what I'm going to do next is just grab a plastic bag. If you are using regular flour for inside your banneton or tea towel, make sure you tie your bag firmly. I left a little bit of air space in here, or rather gas space. So if you're using regular flour, make sure you tie it very tightly and that there are no holes in your bag. You can see it by the way that it's puffy, that there are no holes in this bag. And that is to make sure that your dough won't get any moisture inside a refrigerator and won't be sticking to your banneton or to your tea towel. And that's it for today. I'm gonna leave this hanging here for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, or whenever I get tired of it, or I forget, or I'm afraid to forget to put it in the fridge, I'll do that. And then put it in your fridge, make sure the door is shut, and tomorrow morning we'll be baking. Thank you all very much for your trust and your time today. And I'm very excited for tomorrow to see your breads. Have a good night.